I gotta say, Spurs fans, I'm really curious what your thoughts are going to be as we go over some of these players.
Go, Spurs, go, 'cause the Giants stink.
What is up, San Antonio Spurs fans? Welcome to TSR Sports. Hope you're having a great Monday. Real quick, I plan to be live tonight for the Lakers-Spurs game. It's at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. However, if that thing gets canceled last second due to the wildfires in California, I honestly wouldn't be shocked. I'll put something in community notes, but hopefully things get better, it's safe, etc. Let's get into this video though. So there's been a lot of talk about our roster construction, and I was like, well, big part of our roster construction is our draft picks, especially our draft picks specifically by Brian Wright, or as some of you call him, Brian Wrong. As I dug into this, I realized that since he took over as GM, it's been pretty rough. And actually, since we have had a Spurs channel together here, our Spurs community, the Spurs have only been a losing team. This channel started in April 2019 and been covering the Spurs since. And, well, it's been one losing season after another. Hope is in sight this year as we're teetering around 500. I think things will get better, but I didn't realize things were this bad when I pulled this up. So just share that with you. And let's get into the draft picks because I think opinions are going to be possibly all over the place. So let's start off as we're grading these draft picks. Hey, where'd it go? 2020. This is kind of tough because we are all guilty of recency bias at times. And right now, Devin Vassell is in a huge slump and he's got a huge contract. Trey Jones, playmaking is still there, but his absolute lack of shooting and scoring has been boggling my mind all year. When you look at his game-by-game stats, I think he's played 19 games. He scored 3 points or less. I don't know if that's by design, by the team, or choice by him, but he's just not scoring. And then when you look at the other players in the draft, and by the way, when we talk about the missed players in the draft, take it with a grain of salt because maybe we don't get Wemby if we draft some of these other players instead. But when you look at players that were drafted behind Devin Vassell, Tyrese Halliburton immediately, which, yeah, that would have been nice. Tyrese and Wemby, but then again, we probably don't get Wemby if Tyrese is our point guard. Tyrese Maxey, Desmond Bane, this is pretty solid players. In regards to grading this particular draft, this one was difficult because both these guys, in my opinion right now, are regressing. And they've certainly been under a microscope from Spurs fans, this channel at times, other NBA websites or Spurs websites. This is really tough to grade. So at this time, I'm going to go with the B-. I think Devin Vassell, and I'm hoping he's just in a shooting slump right now, and he's clearly trying to shoot his way out of it. I hope this season turns around. If he finishes this season averaging 15 or 16 points per game, I'm sorry, but I got to think that's just a failure on the season because he's progressed every year from, 5 to 12 to 18 and 19, something like that, and then to just take a significant drop backward, especially after getting that contract, that one would really hurt. And then Trey, I think his season is just going to keep going the way it is. He's going to be distributing the ball, but not looking to score. I know some of you might say, well, it's got to be a worse grade because of Tyrese Halliburton. I'm going to defend Brian Wright here just a little bit in this case because our starting point guard at the time was DeJounte Murray. And I don't think the Spurs organization, nor him, nor Pop, nor anybody had the wherewithal to think, we're going to be trading DeJounte Murray pretty soon, so let's draft Tyrese Halliburton now. I think they thought DeJounte Murray was going to be their point guard of the future. I certainly thought he was, and that wasn't the case, and it turned out to be a good move because now it seems like wherever DeJounte goes, bad things are following. So 2020 draft, I'm giving a B-. Oh, boy. Yeah, man, you can laugh at this one. The Spurs fans aren't laughing, but I'm sure other teams and fans are. 2021, Joshua Primo and Joe Wieskamp. Currently both not in the NBA. And I wanted to dig just to see if maybe I could defend Wright maybe a little bit on the Primo pick. And looking at previous mock drafts for 2021, Primo's draft, or he was mocked, by CBS at 32, Bleacher Report 26, and then ESPN and Sports Illustrated both had him going as high as 20. We drafted him 12th. So it looks like the consensus there was pretty much maybe around mid-20s when you average it out, and then taking him 12th, and then have him cut. And yes, I know he wasn't waived because of basketball reasons, but the fact is he was waived for basketball reasons by the Clippers and then eventually the Bulls. And I think the Bulls signed him to a G League contract and he played like one game, and that was enough. They're like, yeah, we've seen enough. Too many people have seen enough of Joshua Primo. Smell I'm cooking. This was an absolutely horrible draft. I was rooting for the kid. I really want him to be good, but I think it was more my Spurs heart when he was playing that rookie season that wanted him to be good than my Spurs mind that just looked and said, this guy sucks. And he did suck. I don't want to say suck, but no, he sucked. In regards to NBA terms, I mean, he's gone farther than I ever have in my basketball career, as in I'm a play in my yard guy, but he just did not pan out, never developed. This was an absolute terrible draft. And you look at the players that were missed. Alperen Sengun was drafted shortly after Primo. Yeah, he's turned out pretty good. And then I didn't realize Cam Thomas dropped all the way down to 27th. Now, that would have been a reach had the Spurs drafted Cam Thomas at 27, and that would have been another scenario where I was like, who? 20? Isn't this guy? This guy's not projected to go this high. What are we doing? This was a bad reach by Brian Wright. He saw something in him. The Spurs organization, too, saw something in him that clearly wasn't there, and he's gone. This is an absolute F-, a horrible draft. Let's get their faces off let's get them off of here. Whew, 2022. Well, this is also a tough one too. Jeremy Sohan, Malachi Branham, and Blake Wesley. We also drafted Mr. Kennedy Chandler. Who? I don't know. He's gone. And when you look at the players that we missed out on in this draft, Jalen Williams. I did want Jalen Duren at the time over Jeremy Sohan. He's kind of taken a little step back in Detroit offensively, but that could be because the rest of the team has taken a step up. And then the one that really hits us in the jubblies. Sohan was not a surprise at 9. He wasn't. Malachi Branham was a surprise with 20. And I look who was drafted just after him, a player we've been talking about recently, about trading for, a player that would be a much better backup center than any of the jabroners we have on our team right now. Walker Kessler, drafted shortly after Malachi Branham, a player that I would certainly love to have as a 1-2 punch with Wemby. Again, hindsight being 2020. We have to draft, who was there at the time. We don't know. Nikola Jokic was going to be an MVP when he was drafted in the second round. We didn't know Manu Ginobili was going to be the player he was. So hindsight's always easy to do, but we got to go on the merits of who we actually drafted. In this draft, I still believe in Jeremy Sohan. I do. I think he's going to be good for us. If he can develop a semblance, just a semblance. Sometimes all you need is a semblance of an outside shot. He's going to be so good for us. But he's another of in the long line of non-shooters. We'll talk about that actually in a few moments. I remember Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley might not be here next season. Maybe we'll keep one to fill out the roster. I don't see a scenario where both play out. And because of that, I'm going to give this draft right now a C. I hope in the next year or two, Jeremy Sohan brings that grade up if we revisit it. But at this time, I'm going to have to give this a C. And then, come on, man. I mean, this is an easy A+. Anybody but anybody was drafting Victor Wembanyama first overall. I don't care if you already had a starting 5 and a starting 4. You were drafting Wemby first overall in 2023. This is an A+. If you don't remember, the Spurs drafted Wemby, Leonard Miller. I already forgot about him. He was traded away. And Sidy Cissoko, who, another player that we might not see in another non-shooter. And if we look back at our drafts, it seems like we draft at least one non-shooter. Trey Jones. I guess we could put Joshua Primo in the non-shooter class. Jeremy Sohan, Blake Wesley, Sidy Cissoko. A lot of non-shooters. Stefon Castle, who's coming up a non-shooter. We're drafting a lot of guys whose shots need to be fixed. And this is now, we're starting to see those issues on the court on a regular basis where the floor spacing's hurting or it's killing us at the end of games. So this 2025 draft is very important for Brian Wright to be Brian Wright and not Brian Wrong. Wherever we draft or whatever we draft, we can't be drafting a plethora of non-shooters again. So this one's an A+. This is easy. And then last but not least, last year's draft. Stefon Castle. We drafted Dilly and traded him. We drafted Furphy. Remember that? I forgot about Furphy. Drafted him and then traded him for Juan Nunez and then Harrison Ingram. And this one's also easy. It's an incomplete. These guys haven't even gone through the whole year yet. You could almost say 2023 is an incomplete, but we already know what we got with Wemby. That's an obvious one. He's in MVP discussion already. That's the unicorn. That's easy. This one, it's going to depend how Steph Castle plays out or how he develops. He was 4th overall. I did read this week that he, efficiency-wise, is actually one of the worst shooters in the NBA right now, which I don't like reading because I like him and I want him to play well and I want him to work out, but it is what it is. I can't, facts are what they are. He's not shooting well. He's young. He's a rookie. I'm hoping with what I see with him on the court, with his just ability to shoot poorly, but still attack the rim or try to contribute in other ways. It doesn't seem like he gets down if he's not playing well. And that's very important if you're going to make it anywhere in life, is when you fail, you don't get down, you don't whine, you don't flop, you don't do anything like that. You get back up. You get knocked down, but you get back up again. And that's what I'm seeing in Steph Curry. He gets knocked down, but he gets back up again. Sometimes literally as he's bowling his way into the paint. But I'm excited about that. But he needs to work on his shot. And if we're going to have a starting lineup in the future of Jeremy Sohan and Stefon Castle, one of those guys, preferably both, at least become an adequate three-point shooter. Because if they're both substandard three-point shooters in a few years, that floor spacing ain't going to work. That lineup ain't going to work with Wemby. So this is an incomplete. This one's an incomplete. I hope that further down the line, it's an A. I have faith in Steph. You know, my girlfriend's a UConn fan. She said all the wonderful things about him the one year he played there. So hopefully that all translates into the NBA game. And to wrap things up, final grade. I'm going to do something a little weird here. Maybe you'll feel it's unfair. I'm going to take out 2023. Why? Because that was a no-brainer draft with Wemby first overall. You didn't have to do a scouting report, make tough decisions, look into the future, none of that stuff. You just said, that's the guy. We're taking him first overall. Done. Don't have to give a second thought. You're not trading down. You're not possibly trading up. Just nothing. The rest of these draft picks, you had to decide, are these the guys that are going to be Spurs? Spurs for life. Spurs that are going to be starters on our team. And granted, it's difficult, I'm sure, because you were drafting pre-Wemby. Now we're drafting after Wemby. That's going to change your outlook. But still, drafting on the merits of Brian Wright's draft pick since he's come here, without the Wemby A+, I'm going to give him a C-. I'm going to give him a C-, and I have a lot of concerns for the guys he's drafted not being here next year. If you're not aware, I do root for every one of our guys. It might not seem like it. Every guy, well, not every guy in this thumbnail. The two to my right, not the guy so much above me. Good luck to him wherever he goes. But I hope every guy on our roster succeeds. You know why? If the guys on our roster are succeeding, that means we're winning. But right now, a lot of guys are not succeeding. They're either regressing or they're not even playing anymore. Looking at Blake Wesley, Malachi Branham, Sandro Mamakhelishvili, Charles Bassey seems to be out in the doghouse again. Zach Collins, not living up to his contract. Devin Vassell, regressing. Trey Jones, not shooting. There's a lot of stuff happening there. So for all the good that is happening, I look around and I'm like, damn, a lot of these guys might not be Spurs next year. It's because of their performance. I'm not impressed with their performance. Let me know, Spurs fans. And, in fairness to Brian Wright, if I had the Wemby in, I'll at least bump him up to a B-. At least give him up a B-. And maybe we should give a little credit to Brian Wright, for putting together the tanking, losing teams that enable us to get Wemby. So if you want to give him credit for that, I certainly won't argue with you. But as far as the draft picks, aside from Wemby and Castle last year, I'm not overly crazy about them. I do like Devin. I do like Jeremy. I hope they are starters for us in the next 5 years. But it's going to be up to them to make it so. So let me know. Comments below. Drop a comment. Which draft, besides the 2021, do you think we missed on? Are there picks you think I'm being too critical of? And you're like, TSR, you're nuts. This is a good pick. This draft isn't a C. This is a B. This is an A. I'm always curious what your guys' thoughts are. Hit the thumbs up if you like support the channel, become an official member and sponsor, and subscribe to become part of our awesome Spurs community. Thank you, and as always, go Spurs go.
Go Spurs.